going to talk about doubt, fear, and the mindfuckery when we're connecting to spirit. And I've got some wild growth up there, don't I? And I had noticed a comment the other day here in VIP about, having that doubt when you're connecting to spirit. So I am Erin, intuitive medium, Akashic and spiritual mentor, past life spiritual mentor, and I have known and worked with Heather pretty much since VIP began in February of 2018. So the doubt and the fear, the mindfuckery, those things are all very, 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 very common. So especially when you're newer to the game, let's say that, when you're newer to connecting to spirit intentionally, when you're newer to your guides, to loved ones, to galactic beings, elementals, whatever it is you're channeling or connecting to, that doubt is very prevalent, especially in the beginning. So when I say mindfuckery, so I have ADHD. I used to have severe and paralyzing anxiety and panic, and depression and things like that. I don't really struggle with those anymore. I still have ADHD, and that's something that I still learn to navigate, which is very interesting, when you can have a conversation with spirit and your client or whoever you're kind of chatting with at the same time. Spirit and I, how Heather always is like, thank you. Like Spirit and I we talk similarly. But I usually say my things to Spirit in the old up and up. But, when you are having that doubt and that fear, it's normal. So I've been doing this work since 2018. So 7 years now, and I don't have doubt with spirit now. Like I know automatically, instantly, when spirit is telling me something, holy shit, okay. But sometimes I have to navigate, like, what do I do with that information? But I don't really negate the information itself. So I don't have the doubt or the fear of, could I be getting that information? Why would they give me that information? Who am I to get that information? So, I'm wondering if the Wi-Fi is being weird. The kids, for some reason, were up when I left to get groceries like an hour and a half ago. So I just decided to do it in my car today. So, when you have that doubt and fear come in, when I say mindfuckery, it's everything that is occupying your space. Okay, is this even going to work? Because I have 5G, so I don't know why. Okay, well, that one. My phone's been acting very weird lately. It keeps shutting off when I'm doing things. So we shall see. But the mindfuckery, the doubt, the fear, those things are very normal. And when I say mindfuckery, it is anything and everything in your mental, physical, spiritual, emotional, and energetic space. So the more that you have up here fucking with yourself, your anxiety, your panic, your depression, whatever it is that you have going on, your ADHD, your family, your stress, all of those things will make it connecting to spirit more difficult. And not only having that connection to spirit, trusting spirit, like feeling connected to spirit, knowing that they're with you, feeling them, sensing them, hearing them, knowing them, the more that you have going on, the harder it is to have that solid connection to spirit that you just know and trust. So like I said, I've been doing this for a lot of years now. So I've done a fuck ton of healing. I've done a lot of past life work. I've done a lot of current life work. I've done, DNA activations. I've been through the shamanic rites. I have a lot of different methods that I use personally for my own healing journey to reduce my mindfuckery, to keep all of those things calm. Like I said, I used to struggle since I could remember, 2 or 3 years old, with anxiety and panic attacks every single day. And I don't have that problem anymore. So what I really noticed was when my anxiety and panic and depression started to reduce, it was so much easier to connect to spirit. I felt stronger and more solid. Is that a one and done solution for everybody? 100% no. But when I started my spiritual journey, when I began working with Heather, I began Reiki attunements, and then I began with meditation, connecting to myself. I had buried my trauma since I was very, very, very young. I didn't know how to process emotion or understand emotion, anything like that. So I just really learned at a very young age to help other people and to not ever want or need anything for myself, because I never got it in return. I was never safe. I was never protected. I was never taken care of. So I always took care of everybody else. And I'm sure a lot of you are going to have that kind of same kind of energy. You have probably most likely most of your life taken care of other people, put other people first. You're still self-sacrificing, even as a mom, a partner, a friend, a daughter, whatever you are. We tend to self-sacrifice, and part of your healing process is to no longer self-sacrifice. You got to stop over-giving to clients, to friends, to family, to children, to partners, to parents, whatever it is. You got to stop giving and not getting in return, so you really got to start evaluating, how much do I give this person? What do I get in return? It doesn't always have to be money, but what am I getting in return? Energy, connection. If I call them, are they there for me? If I call them, is there a contingency? What do you get in return for giving of yourself? So all of these things really play a big part. For me, therapy, medication did not work for me. And like I said, you have to find what works for you. For me, it was becoming attuned to Reiki and really learning to meditate. And it took me a long time to learn to meditate, to connect to myself, because I had never processed my emotions or trauma or anything like that. So it was hard. It was really hard. When I started Reiki attunements, you're supposed to have a 21-day, flush kind of attunement type of a thing, but for me it was months. So then I would take Reiki too, and then it was like I was a Reiki master teacher within 8 months, I think, but it was a brutal process for me. Reiki attunements were brutal for me because I had never processed any emotion. I've never processed any trauma. I just stuffed it down because that's all I knew how to do with it. That's how you learn to survive. We learn to survive very, very young as children, in whatever way we need to survive our life, to preserve ourselves, take care of ourselves. I had to learn to take care of myself, take care of my brother. I love my mom, but she wasn't around much. She had to work. So I had to learn to take care of my brother, take care of ourselves, take care of our home, take care of, protect him. Even though I hated him, I still protected him. It was okay for me to beat him up, but it wasn't okay for anybody else to beat him up, So, I learned at a very young age just to give and not ever expect anything in return, which, is very, very unhealthy. But as I began my healing process at 39, so I had a lot of years of being, I hated my life. And that was why I kind of put that out there. I wasn't speaking to God. I hadn't spoken to God really since I was 16. So, I was really alone in the world, and I had gastric sleeve surgery. And in that recovery process, it was like December 17th. So I just remember getting a new notebook, and I just said, I need something. Ooh, my head is tingling. That's the angels. So I just remember saying, I just threw it out into the universe. Like, I hate my fucking life. I love my husband, love my kids, but I needed something. And I needed something to not hate my life. I had gastric sleeve surgery so I could have knee surgery. And because at my highest, I was 326 pounds. And, that was a big part of my mindfuckery. My weight, my unhappiness, my depression was really bad. My anxiety was really bad. And those things just compile, it just really becomes a big deal. So when I threw it out there, within a couple of weeks, I had met Heather, and, I had a private session with her, and she said, not to have a Reiki session, but to become Reiki attuned. And that was really where, things shifted for me. That was really where I learned to meditate. I started working with Heather privately, twice a week. And then I, did the Reiki attunements. I learned to meditate for myself, to connect to myself, to connect to spirit. I did her mediumship. Because as soon as I took Reiki, my connection to spirit, my intuition, my mediumship just took off. So everything was even more confusing and crazy, because you're like, holy shit, I'm bananas crazy. So you have to find what works for you. So this doubt, this fear, it is a normal human thing that we all have. The mindfuckery, things like that, it is all very real, but it's also up to you to figure out how to calm all of it. I didn't really know I had ADHD until about 2 years ago. I should have known, because my children were diagnosed one is almost 20 and one is 15. So, from very, very young ages, they were diagnosed. And I guess I didn't really think much about it until it started to make sense. I've always struggled with learning, with comprehension, with reading. And I had to learn at a very young age as well to get through school. How can I get through school? I struggled I really struggled in school, especially grade school, high school, college. I do have almost 3 college degrees. College was easier for me. But I had learned methods that I needed to, to get through, to push through. And I had to learn how to, work with my brain. And, it was a struggle. But, now connecting to spirit with ADHD, like my anxiety and my panic, they're pretty low. So something that I learned very early in my spiritual journey was a lot of my anxiety and panic was not mine. It was other people's. So what I really learned was that I really needed very, very strong energy clearing. So the first thing I do when I work with people, when I mentor people, when I have a session, whether they're my private student, whether they're in my group, whether they're just have a session with me, every day first thing you need to do is clear your energy, set your intentions, your boundaries, and then protect yourself. And I let spirit do all of the work. I don't overthink it. I don't complicate things. If I can't do stuff, like I use my pendulum, I'm driving to school, I clear my son, I clear myself, and that's it. I don't put all of this energy and all of this protection on myself. I let spirit do it. And it was something that I had to learn to do, is to not be a control freak. And as part of my survival was learning to be a control freak. So, I had to break down pretty much who I was, and I really had to come back together in a way that was freeing, that allows me to connect to spirit, allows me to trust spirit. And it is not an easy thing to do. It is a very challenging thing to do. When you haven't been able to really trust in your life, to learn to trust something that you technically, I can see my guides, but technically you can't see, it is a challenge. So if you guys are having this doubt and this fear, it's normal. It happens. There's still some days where I'm like, oh my God, like sometimes you'll hear me if I'm doing a live, if I'm doing a card pull, if you're in a session with me, I'm like, are you fucking serious? I'll say that to spirit. Like, no, I'm not saying that. And sometimes they're like, you can't say that, so I always have a conversation with spirit, obviously. But sometimes I'm like, dude, I can't say that. And they're like, if we're doing past life work or this life, or if it's a starseed thing, or, if it's a galactic being that comes in, or some other type of being or energy or whatever comes in, I'm like, well, there's a lot of times I see things that I've never, ever even seen before. One time I know I was doing some past life. I think it was one of my students in my past life program. We were doing it live in the program, and she was like a Viking marauder, cutting people's heads off, sticking them on stakes. I was like, oh, Jesus. I was like, really? Is this where we're going to go? But I kind of PSA'd everybody, and, but I never ever doubt what spirit gives me. I just figure out what we're supposed to do with that information. Why are you bringing it forward? Why is it relevant? What are we supposed to do with it? So just start asking yourself. So how I like to help people, when, even for myself, is when you have that doubt, that fear, that fleeting thing coming in, reprogram it immediately. And this takes practice and time. It takes time to realize that you're bitch slapping yourself. It takes time to realize that you're literally like you're literally negating the good stuff that spirit just brought to you. They just brought you this amazing insight, and then you're like, no, like, how could I say that? That's not true. As soon as that fleeting doubt comes in, you literally just squashed the good that spirit brought you. So start catching yourself when it's coming in. I like to say that's when we reprogram that thought. And no, okay, what do I do with this? What do I do with this? Instead of going to the negative and literally bitch slapping it right out of your own hand. Like, think about it like have an apple or money or something in your hand, and like you're just getting it handed to you. And then that fleeting thought comes in and somebody just fucking whacks that apple right out of your hand. You literally just whack the apple right out of your own hand before you put it in your own mouth. So stop it. However you have to visualize it or think about it, create a sign with your guides. A lot of times what spirit does for me is the sign I created is they just kind of put a big old red X. It'll kind of flash in my third eye, but I'll visually see it as well. So it'll kind of be like that crosshairs, like, no, stop it, knock it the fuck off. So, creating that sign with spirit, like, hey, tell me to stop. I got to stop. Or maybe you hear the word stop. Sometimes I audibly hear words. Sometimes I hear them internally. I get a lot of physical sensation. I get a lot of touch. I get a lot of visual. And creating those signs with your guides, with your team, so like, ooh, nope, I got to stop myself here. Maybe it's slamming on your car, like internally slamming on your car brakes. Don't literally slam on your car brakes. But whatever that sign is, maybe it's running up to a hurdle. Maybe it's a horse before they're going to jump. You know, when they back off, they're like, oh no, I'm not jumping this. Whatever the visual, I'm guessing somebody in here is a horse person, and that's going to resonate with them. So whatever it is that you need to start creating those signs, create them with your guides. Work with your guides. Say, this is a sign that I want to see, to hear, to visualize, whatever it is. If I am literally, you know, self-deprecating, if I'm ruining myself, if I'm squashing what you are bringing me. So it's up to you to figure out how to, you know, stop that thought process. It's up to you to heal. It's up to you to put all of this stuff into place. And does it seem overwhelming? Yeah, it can. But the reality is it can be very simple. It can be very easy. Like what I always tell people, I like to make working with spirit fast, fun, and easy. It does not have to be hard. It doesn't have to be fucking complicated. You don't need 80 hours a day. You don't need to do all of these big processes, all of these big things. If I can't clear or get an answer from spirit immediately, then I'm out. Like with my ADHD, I'm already doing 10 other things. So spirit knows I don't have time. I don't want to make time. I'm not going to make time to meditate channel for 8 hours a day. If you can't give me what I need in the immediate, then I'm out. So if you're in this process, if you're starting, whatever, it's whatever you need it to be. But I want you to know it does not have to be complicated. It might be complicated right now because you're not confident. Most of the time, what I see in people is they're not confident. They're not confident in who they are, what they do, what they bring to the world. And that is not something that you just wake up and you're just fucking amazing at. That is something you have to work at every single day. Do I have down days? Hell yes. But the difference is that I don't have down periods where I'm constantly down, where I'm going downhill. I have a day, I might want to rage, I might want to punch somebody in the throat. And then my next day, I'm like, okay, bitch, pull yourself up. What can I do? So then spirit knows now that that's my process. So usually if I can't clear whatever's going on with me in that day, maybe it's just PMS, it might be the moon energy. I always make sure that it's nobody else affecting me. I do intentionally every day block myself from other people cursing me, hurting me, harming me intentionally or unintentionally. But I always do double check as well. Is this mine? If I was fine and now I'm not, is this mine? If it's not mine, let's get rid of it. Because I don't know where the fuck it came from, but I don't want it. It's not my problem and it's not my energy. It's not going to stick with me. So, you know, but sometimes it's just a day. Sometimes it's just my kids. Sometimes it's the hormones. Sometimes whatever. Clearing it doesn't get rid of it. It's just a day. You're never going to be perfect. It's not always going to be perfect. Just because you're healing and you're in your spiritual awakening and things are better does not mean you're not still human. You can still be human. It's not about being perfect. It is never about being perfect. It's still about being a mom, a partner, a spouse, a friend, a lover, or whatever you are. It's still about being a human being and making all of this work for you. I make it work for me because it completely changed my life. I know it's my purpose. I know I'm supposed to help other people. And whether I help other people that are in my membership, in my private mentoring, through sessions, whatever it is, through my Akashic programs, through my other programs, you know, just on social media, just doing card pulls, somebody that just messages me, whatever it is, it doesn't really matter. I just know that it's my purpose. It's who I am. And how I like to, when I help people, is I want you to feel that warm and fuzzy from the inside out. Like something that we did in my membership was we kind of channeled your goddess energy. You kind of triple tap your womb space. We activate your womb space, your power. You bring that out, your goddess energy, who you are, what you do, what you bring to the world. And working with people that I work with, that's what I want to be the forefront. I want you to feel like that powerful bitch that you really are. Because the reality is we are all powerful in our own way, and what we do and how we help people and whatever our goals and missions are, we're all powerful and important and vital. But if you don't feel it yourself, other people are not going to feel it to the full extent either. So, you know, on your journey, it's all encompassing. You have to figure out who you are, what you want to do in the world. And it shifts and changes. I'm a Reiki master teacher. I don't use Reiki anymore. I use more light language. I use more healing. I use more galactic beings. I use more starseed things. That doesn't mean that I'm still not a Reiki master teacher, but as my gifts and abilities have grown over time, all of my stuff combines and melds, you know, and that is what your gifts and abilities get to do. I have tons of certifications, spiritual certifications, college degrees, social media degrees, computer degrees, whatever, certifications, all of those things. But it's how you use them. What do you want to do with them? How do you feel confident in them? So it's about you learning to blend your modalities, put them out into the world, feel confident in that, and have a session. So whoever you are out there, if you want to have a business, if you are doing things for other people, practicing, you need to get a review. This is the number one thing. If you are going to give of yourself, fine, but get a review in return. Ask them if this is beneficial to you. I ask that you write me a review upon completion, upon whatever. And this is going to start shifting your energy as well, because when you start giving, and never getting in return, it fucks with you. It makes you just feel depleted and yucky. So this is where you start turning that table. If you're working with Heather, you're doing brain spotting, you're doing all Reiki, you're doing mediumship, whatever it is that you are doing in the spiritual realm and life in general, do not give anything away for free. If you're going to give a healing session, an intuitive session, pull cards, then ask them for a review. Keep them, write them out, keep them in text. I use the Notion app because it's for my business, but if you have an iPhone, you can use the Notes app. Make sure it syncs to your cloud. Copy the text that they send you, the name of the person, the date, whatever session you did for them, and then use that review in the future. It doesn't matter how old it is, how young it is. Keep those for the future. So I also have 25 years in marketing, business development, social media, graphic design, things like that. So, this is part of your journey of like calming that mind fuckery, is if you're always feeling used, taken advantage of, whatever, this is how you start kind of reversing that pony as well. You got to start feeling that confidence. If you're giving somebody healing, if you're pulling a card of your friends, like, hey, check your pendulum. You got to stop doing that for friends, because what happens is, all they ever do is do that, and then you don't get anything in return. And then they're just constantly, will you clear me? Will you do this? Will you do that? And then it starts to become a chore for you, and then you start to resent it. So I think when I started, I don't even know. I used to be in this one group where I would give, I don't know, I think it was on Sunday, it was open readings. So I would probably give 50 readings a day, because that was how much I wanted and needed to practice. So when I started Akashic, when I did Reiki, when I did DNA activation, shamanic work, angelic healing, all of those things, I gave a lot. But that was also where I started to blend my modalities. So, and that was, asking for reviews in return. So, it's really about where you are, where you're at. What do you want to be doing? Do you want to have a business? And one thing I like to tell spiritual people as well is you do not have to have a big fancy website to have your spiritual business. All you need to do is have Acuity, a way for people to book and to pay, and a way for people to, so Acuity and Zoom are the two things that you need to have a spiritual business. Obviously, if you can have an LLC, it's better. Starting out, it's not super necessary. I don't think I started I've had a freelance design company for, I don't know, 15 years, but my spiritual business, I was probably 3 years in before I started my LLC. So, if you're not making a fuck ton of money right away, you don't need your LLC. But, if you can, I use Zen Business. And if you want that information, let me know. I can send you a link. I do get credit for it, but Zen Business is who I use. They take care of the back end filing and state and all of that stuff. But don't let it dissuade you either. If you want a spiritual business, start a spiritual business. You don't have to have a big fancy website. Do I have a website? Yes, because, it's what I do. But but I also have programs and I have different things. When you're starting out, you just need Acuity and you need Zoom. Zoom links to Acuity. So when they book a session on the calendar that you have set of your available times, then it sends them a Zoom link automatically because you set up those emails to trigger. And they pay through there too. So, setting up sessions with people over Messenger is a giant pain in your ass. I like to be efficient. Let's say it like that. When I say I like things to be easy, that's what I mean. So, I'm going off the rails and all unhinged here, but this is all kind of part of the mindfuckery as well. So if you're really starting to overwhelm yourself with all of the stuff that you need to do to have a business, to help people, to do spiritual work, don't stop. Just stop. It does not need to be complicated. It can be simple. It can be fast, fun, and easy. Do not get stuck in the weeds of how. Do not what if yourself to death, which is what we like to do when we have anxiety. ADHD, panic, all of those things. We like to what if our lives to death, and we fucking forget about right now today. So the reality is, if you have people that want to work with you, book a session with you, whatever it is, if you want to practice, personally for me, I like to practice before I charge people for things. that's just how I work. But if you are going to, if you're in Reiki with Heather, if you're doing brain spotting, whatever it is you're doing, if you are doing things for people, stop doing it for free. You tell them, hey, I am practicing this modality. I would love to offer you a free session, but what I ask for in return is, if it is beneficial for you, I ask that you write me a review within a week of finishing. And usually what happens for me with people is they'll let me know right away, but then even a couple weeks or months or whatever later, oh my God, do you remember? And I don't always remember what happens in sessions. I keep notes of everything that we do, and I record them on Zoom, but I don't always remember. But when people come back to you like, oh my God, you remember, oh my God, and people are always coming back to me like, you're the only one that ever, tells me that what's going to happen. You're the only one that ever, and it's a cool thing to have. So if you are up here in the, your mind is going to explode because you feel like you have to do all of these things, you got to stop. That's part of your mind fuckery. Stop worrying about all of the outside stuff and really just start focusing right now. What it is that you want. Where do you want to be? What do you want to do with your gifts? Where are you at? Where do you want to be? And then start asking Spirit, how do I get there? Do I do more with Heather? Do I do something with Aaron and Heather and blah, 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 blah. You have to figure out what works for you, and you have to figure out, a rational way, because you do have to invest time, money, and energy into your healing, into your growth, into your journey. So my healing journey was a lot of me. My healing journey was a lot of time and energy that I had to put into myself, because not that I neglected myself, I just didn't know how to do it properly for myself. But you have to figure out what works for you. I have a lot of people in my membership and my programs. They go to therapy. They're in my spiritual stuff. They're in, they do other things. It's what works for each individual. And I never, ever dissuade anybody from doing what they need to do. I call people out. I put them, no, I challenge people. I push them out of their boundaries. Because Spirit always says, if you don't want to throw up a little bit, you're not pushing yourself hard enough. So, I feel like I'm way off the rails here. So if you guys have questions on this, do not hesitate. Comment below, reach out. I'm going to go live again Monday, Thursday, Saturday next week. I know I was supposed to go live this last Thursday for the buzz, but I got some weird death virus, and I'm just finally starting to, I was able to shower today, let's say that, and go get groceries. My rager of a headache is starting to come back. So I woke up, God, what day was it? Must have been Tuesday night. I started feeling it. It just, I thought I had Rona again, and that almost killed me the last time. So thankfully it is not that, but I was down for the count. So if you guys, obviously I do have ADHD. Some days, most of the time I'm fine. Some days I'll catch myself flitting off, and Spirit will be like, hey, so it's definitely something that you learn to navigate, but it is interesting to me how I always talk with Spirit. And then if especially I'm in session, I can be talking to the two people at once. So I usually just tell people, hey, if I'm zoning out or I look kind of weird, I'm just talking to Spirit, because I don't usually talk to them out loud sometimes. But it just depends. It just depends on the day and where I'm at and what I'm doing. And that's the same thing as well. Never ever feel weird or awkward about your spiritual process. If you feel like you're going to be judged, if you feel weird. I remember Heather's very first retreat in Sedona. Her very first retreat at all. She had it in Sedona, and it was in 2018. And her and I in a group. I think it was Michelle Hill and maybe Paulette. Can't remember who else. We were in Whole Foods, and she pulls her pendulum out, and somebody was like, what's she doing? I'm like, she's asking pendulum. And they're like, oh my God. And it was hilarious, because it was really I think it was the first time I'd seen Heather in person. Cause the reason you guys can take Reiki virtually is because of me, because when I started working with Heather, she hadn't done Reiki attunements virtually, and she's like, I think you should become attuned to Reiki. I'm like, can you do that virtually? And Spirit said, yeah. So that was how you guys get virtual Reiki and virtual mediumship and all of that good stuff. So I just remember sitting in Whole Foods with Heather, and she pulled her pendulum out, and now these days I will pull my pendulum out. Like I said, I love pendulum, not because I don't trust what spirit gives me. I make these pendulums as well. I have a whole bunch of new pendulums in my Etsy shop if you're curious. And at first I really didn't pull my pendulum out. Sometimes I'll use my keys. I will use even like my headphone case, my keys. I use pendulum mostly because of my ADHD, because I do get distracted. If I don't use my pendulum when I clear, then I'm already flitting off to something else. So that is why I use pendulum. I know Heather uses pendulum for confirmation as well, to confirm what she's getting. So that is the same process for me. And I do use it too because of my ADHD, because I'm not like super squirrel distracted, but I already have like 50 things that I'm already supposed to be doing, So I do always have a pendulum with me. But I'm definitely squirreling it out for you guys. So if you guys are curious, if you have questions, if you're like, oh my God, this makes sense. Mindfuckery, it is a personal thing, but it is also a global thing. So it's up to you to figure out how to calm that mindfuckery. But, if you have sessions with Heather, if you work privately, I have sessions. If that's something that you're curious about, whatever it is, you're welcome to reach out to me. But just know that it is very common. Fear, doubt, the mindfuckery. It's common for every human being, but it's up to you to figure out how to reduce it so that it is so much easier. The mental, physical, spiritual, emotional, and energetic freedom you get from not being 24/7 overwhelmed. It's such a hard thing to describe because I didn't really understand it until I had it. I just remember thinking one day, like, oh my God, what am I forgetting? Like, I feel like I'm just forgetting all these things. But the reality was I didn't have anxiety and panic, and I wasn't like overwhelmed. And it was like this freedom in my soul. It came along with healing, and it came along with, energy protection and clearing. It just really came along. And it's like, when you start losing weight and you don't notice it for like months, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, my pants don't fit. It was kind of the same thing. Like, oh my God, am I forgetting something? As a busy mom, as a business owner, as I had, worked in corporate full time for 25 plus years, you're always having something to do. And when I was like, oh my God, that freedom is something that you can't really describe or explain. But it is amazing once you get there. And that is part of the reason why it's so easy for me to connect to spirit. So, all right, I am going to stop boring you guys now. If you guys have questions, do not hesitate. You're welcome to comment below. You're welcome to DM me. Otherwise, hope you have a great Saturday. It is kind of getting cold in my car here. I do have crazy hot flashes, so I generally wear a tank top. I do have a jacket with me, but I don't like to sweat. So I hope everybody has a great Saturday. Calm that mindfuckery. Everybody has doubt and fear. Do not feel singled out. Do not feel like it's going to be the winner always. It does not have to be. Do not let it be. Do not allow it to be. All right. I love you guys.